You could green screen, bro? Hey, we green screened. Oh, look at that. I don't I don't mean to just like music. Oh, gets rid of your wrinkles? Nah. Aesthetics. Q&A poll. Nah, I don't know how to work nothing else. Oh, you could just tap and filter, bro. I'm geeking. All right, we're gonna be doing France, and it's pretty much a geography book. So, France, this country of which we do entreat, doth comprehend it under the perfect churship of the country, or as some would have it, the viscountship of the Paris of the dukedom of Valisius, and that to the territories of Héripuis, and to the Gastinius, and to the prefectureship of Paris, or la Préfets, and to County de Paris. It is divided into the territories of Paris, Goella, the Isle of France, and Vexinium Francisium, and that we call it the Parisium, which is commonly called the Le Parisis, and contrained into hereof whatsoever is beyond the great gate of Paris, even into the town bridge called Pontoise, and from thence into the Clea and towards the Pyre. Then the name thereof, that there is almost a worn out, but some villages as Lovris, Cormelia, Escova, and which others into the parish, into which others the Parisians call EU Parisis, and some taxation of the Parisian Parliament, as also certain into the coin commonly called sols deniers Parisis, doing to keep it into the memory. Some think that the Parisian gate was so called because it was in the same way the Parisium, and to the chief city of the Parisium, and to the metropolis of all of France is Lutetia, and so called in the Caesar. Ptolemy called it the city. Liu Cotetia Ullianus, Luceria, and to the Marcellinus Castellium, Perisorium Socimus, Perisium, and the latter writers of the Lutetia Perisius, but is now commonly called Paris. Some derived the name of Leriuria of Ludo, and from a mud into regard to the marshes near unto it, and some from the plaster pits near adjoining into the Quasi Leucotiacia, and for so it is built, and for the most part with the plaster work. Paris was heretofore called far less than it is now, standeth only into the island which the river of Seine encompassed. So this great city was very small at the beginning, but so small that an island could not last and receive such a multitude of men as daily paired thither, so that the colonies, as it were, to being drawn thither into this place under each side, the continent of the suburbs were added thereunto, whence it was so enlarged by the degrees that it is now unto the greatest city of all of France. It is divided in three parts, the greatest whereof, into lying to the northeast on the right hand of the bank of the river, is the lowest. It is commonly called La Ville. The lesser part of the left hand and towards the southwest was raised, and for somewhat higher the little hills whereon it is seated is now called El University, in the middle of the island which they call La City. It is encompassed round about with a river, being joined into the two bridges on the lesser part, with three of the greater part Architiremius, and to the English poet hath formerly celebrated into the praise thereof into these verses. Hello, dinosaur. Hello, Khalid. At the length of place, do come into your sight, which it is into the court of Phoebus bright. And for the men, it hath Korea, and much into compare. The Chrysia is tis, and for the metals that there are. 'Tis Greece for the books, for students in India by. Athens itself, judge its philosophy. 'Tis Rome poets, which have been there found. It is the sweet balm of the world so round. And its sweet and fragrant rose, you would think into as a Sidonius. For cloths, meat, and a drink, the soil is rich and yields much wine, ye more. 'Tis fit for tillage and has corn great store. 'Tis very strong, good laws it shew. The air is sweet, the sight is pleasant too. And it hath goods, and in all things neat. It is fortune only, made of these goods complete. Not far from Paris is pretty, a town commonly called Le Point, Chariton, and where the river of Matrona mingleth itself into the Seine. Here is an echo that will answer to the 13 times one after another. Odd, which is wonderful, it will be a resort, a word, of 4 syllables plainly and perfectly, and 4 or 5 times. So much concerning Paris, Goella, follows are Le Goyle, and to the ancient bounds thereof are worn out of the knowledge, and only some places be named of the Goella. Do keep it yet into memory. There is a La Contier, Didam, Marition, and so named for the famous town heretofore called Dam Martian. And though now it has come a small village seated on a little hill, a little isle de France, as a Frenchman do limit, it does comprehend all the country of Est Denis and to Pabiacum and to Mormor, Anitium, which life in between the corners of the windings of Seine. On the other side and towards Picardy, and to the other side of the Normandy, others do give other bounds. Est Denis into France is pleasantly and pretty a town which is ignorant of the antiquity. And those that are credulous and to believe that the monks in the dreams do suppose was so called from Dionysus and to Areopagita. Pobiacum or Pobi is a fair town, and wherein the castle where the King of France heretofore much delighted. The castle before the castle of Saint Germain was built on the queens of France were brought to be the bed delivered into the king's children, educated and brought up. Between Beaupiacum and Paris there is a town consecrated to De Germain, commonly called Est-Germain in lay. The ancient town of Mamour-Antium is called into the French Montmorency. Next to the island is Vexinium, Francisium, Vexine, or others call it Volxin le François. It containeth all of the country rivers Essia, Oise, even into the Clermont of Picardy. The memory thereof has been quite extinguished, but that to the preserved certain ancient characters and records, much concerning the prefectureship of Paris and the 4 terrorists thereof. The other part, commonly called Le Paris de Volius, was so called from the pleasant valleys, which are the pride of this country. Others derive the name otherwise. It was heretofore called a county, but is now called the dukedom. And to the first Earl of Valius was the Charles of the son of Philippe, the 3rd king of France, and who the brother Philippe the Fair, afterwards Philip the Sixth, beginning to the king's son, did go into propagation and add many branches into the stock of the Valesian earls, the dukedom of Valius doth extend itself by the Picardy, the chief town, besides Crespi in Centis, called by the Latins. I'm reading a book about geography, and my hair is it's just gonna get longer, so I don't know if that's a low shot, but I could do this like that. Is that better? I could do that, but then it makes me look bald, doesn't it? Unless you focus. Yeah, I'm reading about geography. We're on France. Almost at page 400. I think I'm gonna cook till page 400, which is probably like an hour and 30 minutes. So, yeah. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I really like this book. This book happens to be like the bread needs its legs and its arm. It's a whole bumblebee, 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 bumblebee. I'm gonna Wowza. Very good, very delish. And to the Latins, as some suppose, the Sylvian Ectum, and because it is joined into a wood, is an ancient town and having besides a bishop, a provost, and two bailey in it, and to the prefectureship of Sylvian Ectum, half enriched with the dukedom of Valius, in which the lordships are commonly called Pierre, Sons, Bethy, and Verberie, and the towns Angy, Lee, Point, S, Maxins, which is encompassed with the marshes. It is bound between France and Picardy. Upon going into the Brenonville and see the same prefectureship doth also and to contain the Compine, and to once the prince seat, and some called it the Caropolis, and from it the Calvius, and which enlarged into the Praetian Tix, Praesianx, and to the fortified underneath the campaign the towns of the Magni, Thoret, and the Necril of Sylvan Ectum, thus also contained into the bailiwick of the prefectureship of the Viscounty of the Pons of Essy, commonly called Pontius, and by some Ponticium, under which are the Ville, Nivelle, Leroy, and the Isle of Adam, besides Leconte and Beaumont Shore, Ois is under the Sylvan Ectum, being an ancient provostship, under which are the Persang and the Meshu. Lastly, under the Sylvan Ectum is the dukedom of Valius, and there is the country of Bellovacium, and which the French call Le Comte de Bevius or Beviosun, Beviosin. And to the metropolitis there is of the Bellovacium, commonly called Beovius, and to Caesar, Iosef Scaliger writeth into Murula, calleth it the Bradus Pontium, and the same Scaliger Seth into the Caesar nominated it and called it the Cassaro Magnum, and but into the Bratu Spaniatum, to speak the truth. Carolus Bovilius thinketh not to be the town in which is called the Grand Viller, or the Great Pants, and to some call it Clermont, in Beviosian and Vigenrus, of the Bearmont of Oise. The city of Bellovacuum hath a pleasant situation and fruitful mountains adjoining unto it, which are not very high, but fit for tillage. It hath also a good store of wines. Ludovicus and the king of France in the year of 472 granted the privileges, and to the inhabitants thereof, especially to the woman, because they enforced Charles, Duke of Burgundy, to raise his siege and go away without doing anything, not far from the Bellovacuum, and the town of Clermont, fortified and with a castle, so much concerning values. And the third part of France it followed and called Héripois. It beginneth in Ducine. And so from the little bridge of Paris that runneth by the same river to Corbière, Milieu, Dinium, and Morier, and to west the river of Renia doth separate it from the Gastinios, and that it cleaveth into the Brie towards the Collimier, and that containeth into the Melodunician, the Viscounty, Bailwick. The metropolis thereof is Melodunium, and which is called by the ancient books of the commentaries of the French war Mediocerium. And but now to Milieu, this town is seated on the island and seen, and like Paris, and it hath a strong castle. The town now commonly called Corbière is the life of Saint Petrus Tarantusius Corbielium, a place of the famous for the fish, but especially for sweet crabs. That hath a strong castle. There is a Héripois into the town called Fons Bellier Acquier, French fountain of Bellier, and to which where the king hath a pleasant place, to which where the king has a pleasant palace, my goodness. Heretofore was called a Mansion, the seat of S. Leviticus, and afterwards the Philip, lastly into the Francis of Valios, and to many rarities in it. I have given into the fourth place in France, into the country of the Gastin Inchians, and to commonly called the Gastinois. And what she separated from Héripois into the river of Vernia, and to containeth it under the dukedoms of the Estamps of the Nemours, the county of Rupes into the others, the town of the stamp commonly called Estamps, in the midway in between Paris and the Aurelian, called Estamps, and into the midway between Paris and Aurelian Sum, and to our Orleans, and to near the river of Ayun, and which has Corbilium, dischargeth itself into Cayenne. It was heretofore called a county, but now a dukedom of the town of Nemours. It is seated near the river of Lonius, and which runneth into the Cayenne, a little below the Mortitum, and it is one of the chief dukedoms of France, Rupes the 40th, and called by the French Rochefort, into half a title of a county, and to the territory of the Gastinois, and to being besides the Millimor, and which is the bounds between the Gastinois and to the Héripois. It is now called the Montargum, and it is so called the Quasi Mons Agri, and that is the mountain of the field, as some do argue, because it has a fair prospect round about it. It was wasted by fire in 1518, and afterwards was re-edified. There are castles in the two former towns. There is also into this which is there painted by a story concerning a hound that revenged his master's death by killing him that had slain him. And there's going to be Picardy, the ecclesiastical state. It's going to be 3 pages only. I should show the map, so I'll show the map this time. Picardy, the classical state, that part which Picardy and the subject of the King of France has 7 bishoprics under the archbishopric of the Reims, the bishops of Soissons, Sylvia Nectum, and Béviès, in which is in France, Noyon, Lyon, Amiens, and the bishopric of Bouillon. The bishopric was formerly at Terignan. Being it suppressed, was agreed into the bishop's seat that it should be translated into Bouillon anno 1559. Picardy, as I had said before, some thinking to be called because the inhabitants thereof was the first that used into the lances, which was not probable. Some say Picardy was so called from the town of Pécu, Guinea, into some of the famous soldiers called Picnon, into the first founder of the Pequin-Guineans, into the Ambianians, into after the death of Alexander being made the captain of the war, after he had conquered so many nations, arrived with a fleet of ships at Neustria, now called Normandies, into harassing into those places he had gave them afterwards into his own name. On the west lieth the British Ocean, and some part of the Normandy, and on the north lie the countries of the ancient Bellier, and to the Ardisier, and to the Annonier, and to on the east of the Luxembourg, Lotharingia, and to the south Campania, and to that country which is called by the more special name of France. Picardy, as I have said also and before, it is divided into three parts: the true Picardy, the lower and the higher, and the true Picardy, do and contain the Vitamels, and to the Ambinium, the Corbie, Pequin-Guinea, and to the county of Vero-Mandus, and to the dukedoms of the Tirachy, and to the Reditolios, and to the Ambionium, it hath from a name also a town called into the situate the river of Simona. And this town hath a very fair church, and being built with great art, grace, and adorned, I imagine, with a fair exceeding to the curious pieces of Europe. It has in the fabulous report S. John B. Baptist, head is kept whole, and hath a title. A Vildemate is as much as it do say into the vice dominatus, and which is used in an honor used only in France. I should lock the screen, but it's going to switch it, huh? Nope, but it won't. There it is. Is it like picking up my face, so if I do this, it won't work? How would I get it to work? It's a bit of a bummer. Well, I can't show you the map because it will green screen out. Let me turn the green screen off. I don't mind my little wrinkles. I accidentally just uploaded a short to my channel. My goodness. Hold on. There's a community moderation on this. Live chat on, live chat summary, participate mode, anyone, message delay, none. Black words. Where do people get these names from? Hold on, let me focus. I don't know how to turn the green screen off. I think I turned it on before I started, huh? Is it fake light? How does it fake light your face? Oh, I just probably changed the contour or something. Oh, bothered me French. All right, how do you turn it off though? I can't turn it off. new platforms. I didn't do the same thing twice. Promise. It won't let you turn. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's gonna take like 9.5 and 3/4 years. All right, that's the map. All right, map shown. Whew! I just ran 10 miles. Not laughing. A title of bailiwick, and but yet the civil government as ordering the municipal court and the power appointed into the watches which are being chosen out of the citizens belongeth unto a council appointed into that for the purpose that the first bishop thereof was Firminius the martyr, and who after whom 69 bishops succeeded in orderly in the last, and which was John Quequens of the Canoplini, how they put an N and an S after the E, N, and then Canoplesian family, and the inhabitants are reputed into being very honest and faithful, therefore having many privileges and immunities, and as being too exempt and from serving of foreign wars and from paying of the subsidies. Here the most learned physicians Silvius Fernelius were born, and also had an excellent orator, and to Silvius, who had a great commendations imitated and by many books of the Cicero's. And the city, as we have said before, was built on Pignoin, a soldier of Alexander the Great. I will believe many writers in the year 597. The Spaniards treacherously invaded it, and many of them their own, that Henry IV, the King of France, and by siege and the force of arms compelled them to render it up again. The Villa Monte Corbi, it is so called from Corbia, which is a town situated on the river of Simona, or some. The Vidimate of the Peguini is so called from the Peguini, built as I before expressed in some one, the Pignon soldier of Alexander the Great. The French writers do testify that those Englishmen which have survived a certain victory obtained against them were all slain at this town, and what you could not pronounce the name thereof, and for they pronounced it Pequini instead of Pequingini. And the geographers and described into France, and that Theromondiois doth and to contain under the territories of Soissonnois, Lanois, into the Tartinois, into the cities of Noyon, Esquintins, into the city of Soissons. It is subject into the realms of the chief of the city of Gallia Belgica, which was honored by Caesar in the title of the royal city. It was in the power of the Romans, but was taken in at them and took Clodovius, and after whose decease into the sons restored it to that former honor in which enjoyed it to the Caesar's time, and the inhabitants are warlike people. In this city it is a reign of Philip Augustus, and there was a council held by the clergy of England and France, and for that King of England, having thrust in the bishops out of their seats, had kept into the churches goods in his own hands for 6 years, and afterwards had banished bishops into France. The council had an excommunication, wars denounced against him, and the enemy into the church, in which it was upon it was to overcome a battle and his auxiliary forces. What he had out of the Flanders were overthrown by the Soissons, and amongst the rest, having by themselves very valiantly and against him into the temple of the monastery, Blessed Virgin, into a city. Soissons was built by Ebriones, a tyrant whose master was a palace of France. The bishops, Sorbonnes, and to the Sixtus, Matthew, Paris, were 79. The country of Lannoy, into being so called from the city of Leon, in which was being situated between the rivers Ain, Oisia, on a hill, Sigus, Bertius, and to it being Seth, is Clodovius, into the year 500. It did honor this city with a dukedom and a bishopric, and that being constituted, the Gimbaldus, and to he have first the bishop thereof, and then after him, Ionas Berserius, and there are to be reckoned 72 bishops. It was bailiwick, and under these are the cities of the Soissons, Novi Magius, and to the Noyon, S. Quintus, Ribueri, and to the Ribi Montcausi. I think this is the last page. I got some work done on my teeth today, so if I'm making some strange faces, it's not because anything other than my mouth is absolutely hurting. And so saliva is building up, so I'm trying to like get rid of it. And I guess I have a tumor. And so they said that I need to go and get another scan, but from a more expensive clinic. And I'm just like, I'm at a point where it's like, I'm gonna just pray. I'm gonna pray and hope for the best, because yeah. A tumor, like, I don't know how that's possible. But Kusichari, Gus, Peronia, Mondidier, Roya, next adjacent unto Leon, is Compendium, called by the French Compiègne, and by the others Peropolis, and from Carolius Calvius, and in the year of 896 did enlarge and fortify it like Constantinople, erecting there also to the monastery and to the St. Cornelius, the church of the Compiègne, and to the monastery of the Dominicans, and to the Frisians, were built by S. Ludovicus, and to King of France, the metropolitus of Tarchinois, is the Fera, commonly called La Fere. Being a city well fortified, and to being commodiously seated, and to the confluence, being meted by the rivers of Oisa, Serva, and having a strong castle concerning the cities of Noyon. The S. Quintins, there is enough spoken of the description into the former table, so much therefore in the concerning the true Picardy, and to which are the diverse parts of the Picardy, and to Libas, as Sanctera Pontium, Bolincium, Gutinium, and to Oyum, the Sanctera, or the Santera, that life in between the Monts S. Desideri, and to the Ferrona, the Roy, and to the Nesla, Mons S. Desideri, and to the Mont Ditter, is a strong place or hold. Perona is situated at the river Simona, here into being here Bert, Earl of Viro Mandois, is kept into the trials of the simple king of France. Captive where he died, and leased into the kingdom much troubled. Roy is fair. I don't know why, but there's a fly. And it's going off the Chisarts. Roy is a fair town, fortified with a castle. Antonius call it the Casar Magnus, as also the itinerary tables. Nessa is so strong into being a fortress as many other places of this part in the kingdom. And Sanctera have many famous men, and beneath born into the ancient lords thereof are the Marcuses, formerly joined with the affinity. and allied into the family of the Courtenays, and which is a descended from the kings of France. Pontium or the French Leconte. Ponthieu is also named to accompany the bridges in the marshes discharged, and as it empty themselves into the sea, near into the Es Valerie. The chief of the town of the country is Abatisvilla, commonly called Abbeville, near to the river Oise, being a bailiwick into the seat of the president, and from whence it causes the suits and the laws are brought into Paris. The other towns are Courtois, Raoul, and to Treport. The S. Richerie, and to being besides the Crebiacium, and to the little town of Creby, famous for the slaughter of 36,000 Frenchmen under the conduct of the Philip Valois into the year 1346. This country also doth and contain the two others under it, wit into the counties of Monstreuil and Espal, some thinking former into it being so called Quasi, Mons Regius, and that the royal mountain, but others imagine it into being so named from a monster, which had a dwelling of the house there, into the lower Picardy, that containeth the county of Bononia, commonly called County de Bolin, into the county of Gisny, and as we speak into the descriptions of Bonania, into the chief rivers of the Picardy, Simona, and near to which lie into the town of Ambianium, or the Amiens, Abbey, Villa, Ois, Asia, Scalidis, Escote, Skeldit, and those in which are commonly called Ain Scarpe. I come into their manners of the Picardarians are here of a good disposition and well set, courteous, of the officious, valiant, and prone to anger, whence they are called hotheads. They are so soon assuredly given into the adi, addicted into wine, so that man can hardly obtain anything of them, unless he will bear them in the company and drinking. Yet they agree so well amongst themselves that if you offend none of them, that they all will rest in your enemies. The nobles are warlike and do most into all of delight into the military affairs. So much concerning Picardy. We're on Campania. I have a medical book, and it says certain things are like out of control uh, for your reach to get fixed. And I think like this is one of those things. And so it said when it's out of your reach to fix on your own, that you could just pray on it and that miracles happen. And that was like one of the, I'm pretty sure it was like first best thing that you could do when you get into any pickle is you could pray on it. And that they believed that prayers were stronger than any medicine. And that's how people beat a lot of stuff in the past. So I think prayer is going to be my go-to for this. Although I know if once I get to next month, that I'm just going to pay for another, it's expensive. It's like, just the checkup just a second ago was expensive. And I barely made that happen. So to go straight to this more expensive clinic is just far out, not possible. Not to mention I'm like, it's the start of the month. And I'm already like, don't even want to go anywhere for the rest of the month because I went to the dentist twice now. Got a bunch of x-rays. They said they can't see nothing. So I need a CT of the left side. But when they were doing the drill thing today, I shot out of the seat twice. Painful. And they put a lot of medication. And so it's not only down here, it somehow got up here also. So it's like my canine on my right side and my bottom left molars on my left. And so they said that that's out of their fixing zone. Yeah, it's all swollen. It's a big old something right there. It is what it is, though. We pray on it, and then it jumps out of the seed, and then it goes and it fixes itself. Here is the Archbishop of Reims, under in whom are 8 suffragan bishops at the bishops of Lyon, and to the Duke Pierre of France, the Bishop of Chalon, Earl of Pierre of France, and to the Bishop of Soissons, and to the Bishop of Terouenne, and to the seat was translated to Boulogne, the Bishop of Amiens, the Bishop of Novio Magium or Noin, and to the Earl and a Peer of France, the Bishop of Senlis, and to the Bishop of Beauvais, and an Earl and the Peer of France. Here is also the Archbishop of Sens, and under whom are 7 bishops, to wit, the Bishop of Paris, of the Charters are the Orleans, of the Nivers, of Auxerre, of the Choice, of the Champagne, and Meaux. Campania called it the French Comté de Champagne. It is derived that I have said before that we shall believe Gregorius Turoninus, and from the great spacious field wherein of it consisteth, for it is very plain in the champion of the country, the territories of the Brie, the Burgundy, the Carlois, and the Lotharing Gia, it does compass about it every side, the Tricases, into the Ligons, the Remi, the Catalonians, and the Meldi, the Senons, and to the others who are now worn out of memory, were heretofore seated in this country, the Tricases, nominated by the Plinies, chiefest books Ptolemy calls the Tricaboioi. Oi. Ammianus, Trica, Beni, and also being in a certain Pangarix, and also the inscriptions of the ancient stone. Herodotus calleth the Treca in the life of S. Germain, and the others, and to call them by the contraction, the Tresses. Their city is called the Trica Buum, and to commonly Trios in the campaign in Westos, and to Caesar, Pliny, and others do call Lingons. Ptolemy calls Dong Ons, and to the Pliny, Federati, and to that province in which contained to their city, which is now Langris, is now called La Duche, Peri, Evesci de Langris. Those which Caesar calleth the Remi, Ptolemy calleth the Remioi, and Pliny Federati, into the country in which their city of Reims is called Douche Paris, Archency de Reims, as we have heretofore mentioned, and learn and to think into the Cath Oni, mentioned into the Amrinius, Marcellinus, that should be written into the Cataluni, and they are nominated. Dang, they got... I ain't never seen a map look like that. They got a town every 10 feet. Madness. I haven't seen none of the maps so far look like that. Nominated into the Etropus in his books, and the city is now called Lea Evesci, de Chalion, the Carolonian fields, the Attilia, the king of Ons, And the year, see, I read in the History Channel, there was somebody made a little post about the Huns, how they appeared out of nowhere and they disappeared just like the Gothian Bible did. And it just sounded weird to me that it was in a Bible and that they played a big part in Rome falling. And they just appeared and then disappeared, and just, it threw me for a loop. The year from the building of the city of Rome, 1203, and to the birth of Christ, 450. It was overcome by the Romans, the Goths, and the Frenchmen under the conduct of the captains of Aetius, Patricius, and to Theodoricus, Moravius, and slain on both sides 162,000, except 90,000 Gepidans, and the Frenchmen were slain before Yorendis. Cap 36 does Delmite and set forth into the fields of the place of the battle. The Meldae in the Pliny called the Liberi, Strabo, Melodoi, and to Ptolemy, Meldae, and to the inscription engraven on the ancient stone, Meldi, Strabo, precisely maketh unto them the Luxovians, and that being to Perociniate, and to which are in the middle of the country, which is now a town, Meliex, near unto the river of Matrona, the Senones, and which are celebrated by Caesar, Pliny, and others. Ptolemy calleth by the same name, and placeth them into the Gallia Lugdunum Nemesis, and Strabo thinketh there be the other Senones into the Nervias, and two towards the west. The former of them did make into these horrible incursions into Italy so much spoke of, that they did moreover and wage a most fierce war against the Romans in the year in the building of the city 364. Was they called the Senonic French War. It sounded like we have a timeline off really hard right there. There was a war in Rome in 364 where Rome fell. I don't think that's what they said even in the Bible. The captain was the brainiest of the noblemen of France, and after the fight of the battle they entered into a city of Alia, and after slaying that they had met with the wasted with the fire, they besieged many months of the capital, in which was Romaine, you had fled from the safeguard. But at last, having made a peace with them, and for a certain time, a sum of money on the contrary, saith they promised, that were partially slain, partially put to flight, M. Furius Camillus, and to the dictator who entered the city with an army. All these things, lib 5, Florius, lib 1, cap 13, and all the other writers do delineate into the proper colors. Campania is honored, and with the title of the county was into the inheritance of Edo, nephew, and to Gerlo, Norman, and to his son Theobaldus. The Gerlo was that the accompanied into France of the Rudolphs, or Rollo and the Norman, who into the Charles of the Simple granted Neustria, and was afterwards called Normandy, after Edo, and there succeeded into the right of Lini, Stephen, Theobaldus, and the second, who the son of Theobaldus, and the third, dying without issue, there succeeded him into the cousin Germain, to Henry surnamed, into the large son, King of England, who was the brother of Theobaldus, the second, Henry's son, and who was the Earl of Campania, into the territories he was dying without issue. The brother Theobaldus had invaded the county, and to write himself into Count Palatine into the Campania, that Theobaldus, after being afterwards made towards the king of Navarre, upon the death of the grandfather of the mother's side, brought into the county to belong into the father and the mother's, brought the county into being that the crown of left into Henry the successor, both in Campania and that in the kingdom. Lastly, Iona, daughter and heir into Henry, being married with Philip, to the fair king of France. Campania, two provinces were united with the crown of France, which they were now never after separated. Campania, as I have already spoken, usually is now described in both into itself and to principalities adjacent and to lying round about us. As it is considered properly as by itself, it is too twofold to the lower and the higher. The lower is the Tricasium, and the territories in which are commonly called Ivigini, Bassigini, Valais. Modern writers do call that the Tricasium, and to which is now called the Trios. Which are those who were heretofore called the heirs of Campania. The city were called the heirs of the Tricasium, and that is now into the greatest, fairest of the cities of the kingdom. The latitude thereof is 47 degrees and some of the few minutes, and towards the north in the bishop's seat, the Beliors was reckoned 83 bishops thereof. Among these was famous Lupus, whom Sidonius Apollinarius praiseth and for the virtues. Paulus Diocletianus and Mauriciano Beri and others. This city had a large jurisdiction. It is on the seat of the president and the councils of the judges, and heretofore called the king officers, and the towns having reverence unto it, namely Barashor, Sin, Mubile, Evescu, La Ferte, Sur Agu, Nogint, Pont, Chausin, Filiu, Chassel, S, Florentum, being all towns of Campania, into the territory of Ivigny, separateth a Campania into the Burgundy, and the chief of the town of thereof is Ivigny, in which is the jurisdiction of the bailiwick, Tricasium, and to Bassingi, and is so named because of the better part of the lower Campania, as we have before declared. The metropolis thereof is named from the bald mountain in which Ivionis mentioned in episode 105, episode 105, commonly called the Chalmont in Bassini. And it hath an ancient castle seated on a rock and well fortified into the tower, the west side whereof was called the French of Dagnon and Le Hol Fiol. This castle of the earls and Campania did in heretofore make into the palace no river that runneth by, nor affordeth into the water unto it, but the cisterns do yield into the fountain in the foot of the tower, thereof also into the Bassini, into the towns of Monteny, Goffy, Noyent, Leroy, Montclair, Andelot, Bisnay, Choiseul, Visnory, into the Clesmont, being all strong towns, and to the most of them they were well fortified and with castles, besides the Andomont, Anum, Lingonum, and to the commonly called the Langris, which we shall speak of in another place, and to the territory of the villages is supposed to be called from the valleys, which are both fair and fruitful. The towns of the chiefest into the note are the village are first Vassium, or Vassi near Blois, into the country the use of the Francis Duke Guise, coming hither into the year 1562, was the author that the Vicien massacre mentioneth into the French historiographers, and wherein many processed into the reformed religion were slain in the Calines of March. Not far from thence is a kind of earth found, which Boli Armagnac was made, second to the town as not unto the S Desire, or Didier, into which was being taken for the Emperor of Charles V. Afterwards, a peace being concluded, that it was restored again into the French. It had a strong castle into the town of Ionville, in which some writeth it is Yointville, in which does do fabulously report to Ionis, and that belongeth unto the families of the Guises and the Bry, and in the towns commonly by Bray, Comte Robert, reckoned with some companies. In the country of Bry, although it were heretofore, and also it is now very woody, yet in fertility and the fruitfulness it is not inferior to any part of the Campania. For it hath the clear sky and a sweet temperate air, it was into water with a great wholesome fruit into the rivers. The cities of Bry Brian Castilium Theodorsi, Aetinium, Medorium, Meldorium, now called Miliex, Providence, and the others, Castilium Theodoric, now called it Chassis Theory, Metropolis, is a country of Briar, having a Bailey president into it, it hath bishop's seat, which Belli Forestus reckoneth 101 bishops, and to the last, which was the number of Ludovicus Bisuus Providency, to a town famous and for the sweet red roses that are in it, and for the rose cakes, the rose water, which are all made of them into the summertime. Hereunto for sometimes called ruinous monuments of the antiquity, and so much shall suffice into the concerning companies. And then we're on to the next chapter, but we made it to our stopping point. The country of Belo Acum, commonly called Beovas, Beovois, Isin, the state of the ecclesiastic, the bishop of Belovacium, is a spiritual and temporal lord and earl of the peer of France. And it's going to be the country of Belovacium. And what do we learn? There was a big war. One of them had 160,000 people. One of them had 90,000 people. And I'm pretty sure we saw Rome fall. So, did they fall and lose the war, or did they just fall? I don't know. But what it does sound like is the Huns, the Goths, and one other group was like, we're tired of Rome, and they went full steam ahead. And so I'm not even too sure who is who just now. I have a lot of pain in my mouth, but based off of what I seem to think to know is that 5% of all these groups was all that was left over. So I think Rome had the 160,000 people, but they fell because it was like after a war like that, like you got nothing left to do but fall. You got a bunch of weak people. Surely it was like a bunch of girls left over to rebuild a lot of it. And so after a great war like that, you just have to understand that both parties got reset hard, that there was only 5% left of the opposing side. Of course Rome fell. What a battle. But I don't know, it was like a difference between the two. Rome wanted to not have mother's tongue style. They wanted to keep it under checks and balance. And then the other group was like, this isn't how you're supposed to do this. So, boom, battle, clash of the titans. And that's what we hear a lot. We heard two big brothers got in a fight. And when they got into this battle, that now we see what really happened, and Rome didn't just fall, and it wasn't the Gothians joined Rome. It was a lot bigger. That's a lot of people. 160,000 versus 90,000 people. And I read somewhere else that they had 35,000 foot or horses. So they had horses too. And that's where they were saying that these groups were wiping them out. They had to retreat. And that when they retreated, they gained like a sort of grounding at their home base. But they were saying that they rode the horses so fast and they had bows and arrows that they were just a force to be reckoned with. But the way that the Bible talked about it, it wasn't like that. It was saying that they just showed up. A battle went down between the Huns and the Gothians. And but then if you pay enough attention, you'll see that the Gothian Bible, the Silver Codex, is literally what they both used. Why would they go against each other? That just doesn't make sense. And then they said the Gothians just joined Rome, running from the Hun. That didn't make sense either. Why did Rome fall by somebody joining? Oh, because they didn't have enough for them. It's not enough. It's not. That answer is just empty. So here we are with the truth. Uh, that's a big war. That's so big. That's massive. Could you imagine 160 just foot soldiers? Ho, ho, ho. That would sound wild. They said that this was one of the biggest wars we've ever had. So good stuff. Not that the war happened, but we're very far in this book already. We got a lot more to go, but I feel like we're getting a good grounding of it all. Everything's starting to make more sense. Versus before, we got breadcrumbs. We're getting rid of the breadcrumbs and we're making a loaf of bread for the lot, and it's getting stored in the squishy thing. So it's not like I need to keep rereading old passage. I probably will too though, because this is a really good book. 10 out of 10 on this book. But I also did just pick out another 300 books. So with the 300 books I picked out, storage is getting really slim. But there's so many good books. How do you just, I've been wondering, like, how do you just stop? How you not like so many different books? It's just like every book I see like something great behind the front page. And it just like, it turned into, it's almost like if I ate a whole tub of ice cream in one sitting. It's just like, I know I shouldn't have done that, but I did it anyways because it was good. It was nice. I liked it. And so I don't know. Maybe I'm just a nerd, dude. Maybe. Now I want to get a whole tub of ice cream and eat it in one sitting. I think I might go get a tub of ice cream. I'm pretty sure after what I got done to my teeth today, though, they told me don't brush them. And it sucks because I can't get nothing crunchy. If I bite down on this side, I like jerk my head like I just got blasted. I'm still gonna live my most attempted best version of enjoyment with the problem of what it is. I don't see it as a bad thing. You gotta just always keep looking up. Nothing can stop you. You keep praying, looking up, staying true. If your prayers are answered, then you'll get healed magically. And sometimes you just gotta have that kind of faith. Blind, mustard seed for some. But in my medical book, it was talking about how you can't force somebody to believe that kind of stuff. Like it said, here's the last sense of care, right here. Pray. Pray to God. And your prayers will be answered, but you have to do it with everything in you. And he was talking in the book, he was like, you can't force somebody to see life like that. They have to want to understand that version of life. And so in the past, I was doing it wrong. I feel like I got it pretty dialed in now. But I definitely, I do feel like it's my main source of almost everything I went to or went through. Like when I got, I just stopped there. But a lot of stuff has happened where I prayed, and like last year was probably one of the hardest times I prayed. Uh, I felt like I was all alone, and I was in tears. I was in shambles, crying every night, just bawling my eyes out. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why does this all feel like this? What am I doing? Like, where do I go? What do I do? Why does it feel like I have something to do, but I don't know what it is? And so I legit was crying every night for like a year straight. And I was getting nowhere. And then I lost that job again. And I was just like, finally, I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Here's it all. Take everything, flip it around for me, please. I do not know what to do. And so I submitted fully, had my hands buried in the dirt, was looking up, and with tears, I cried. I said, I can't continue to go down this road any longer. I can't. And so I cried, submitted fully, and it was like a snap of a finger that everything started to change. And then every prayer I made that was full, submitted, like I have to do this. Like when I repented for my sins, I also did the same thing as when I submitted fully. Is I buried my hands, I prayed really, really hard with all my being. And the next day I quit all my bad habits. I was like, this can't be real. How has this happened? Like I tried my whole life to quit my bad habits and I couldn't. Nothing I could do to I couldn't quit my bad habits. But one night of begging for repentance, forgiving myself first, and then saying, like, I need help. I want to break free of all of these bad choices. And it was a snap of a finger again. It was just like, what? So if it's not full, if it's not committed, it won't work. But if you mean it with everything in your spirit, it really does work every time. I got I either got lucky. Of course I got lucky. There's something magical about doing both of those things. And but I'm grateful as well. And but also in a sense it's like sometimes we're meant to go through certain stuff so we can value things differently. So we can have a backbone where we once upon a time didn't have a backbone. And it just all is something so it's absolutely perfect once you are able to take 10 steps back and analyze it all. How it all worked out. How perfect it all worked out. Like it was meant to everything that happens is happening for a reason. It's so amazing. And so all you got left to do is be grateful and continue doing what you've been doing your whole life in a manner, but now you could do it with no bad in the middle of it. And surely some people push your buttons and you get upset, you're human. But now when they push your buttons, you're able to step off the stool much faster. Like, don't start getting all upset and stuff. And so I feel like that's good to gain that level of control. Before I had no control. I was, I was something else, something I would not look at and be proud of. But now I'm like, you know what? I had to go through that so I could be here today. If it wasn't for going through that, then I would have not appreciated this in the manner I can appreciate it now. And so I pray that everyone gets to experience both avenues. Like surely I don't wish the bad on nobody, but I pray that you see some challenges so that you're able to become a better version of yourself through the challenges. Because surely you could just go your whole life and not ever face a challenge. But there's something I always had to question. Like, it almost felt like I liked the challenges so much that I kept putting myself in the middle of the challenges, knowing the outcome of the challenges. And I still did it. I was on an autopilot for picking challenges that I knew the outcomes of. Then it would blow up in my face, and I'd be like, well, at least I knew it was going to happen. But then I started to question, like, do I like challenges or something? Do I continue to do all of this goofy stuff because I enjoy a challenge? Because I want to stop enjoying these challenges. And then when I said that, it was like, boom, the biggest challenge of my life popped up. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Whoa, what is all this? And it was like, well, here's everything you ignored for the last 20 years all at once. Boom. And it was just like, oh, okay. And then you catch it. And then, like, for me, I had to keep sleeping. I was like, dude, yeah, right. I'm gonna go to sleep. And I was sleeping twice. I was sleeping once during the day, once at night. And I was sleeping for so long that my body started to hurt. And so I had to quit laying down for a little bit. What a year to make it to the other side of all that. What a year. And like, I'm grateful for it. So I just, now that I'm on the other side, I'm grateful for it because random stuff happens all the time. And now I just look at it and I go, just another day. Just another day. Could be worse. And it's like a positive reflection instantly. Could be worse, could be worse. And it's just a level of understanding of yourself in the universe. You're set. You are set for life. You get both aspects. Let's say you never get those challenges. You get all the blessings, and then one day, like you're 33 years old, and then you get hit with your first challenge ever. And they call that the midlife crisis. You want to be ready for that. You want to be prepared. And so, to be prepared for something like that, you have to go through stuff. You have to learn not to have resentment for what happens, knowing that it's just an experience. And in order to achieve that level of understanding, that you have to understand yourself first before you could even gain even a slightest possibility of understanding for things outside. That's why I got a bunch of health books. I grabbed a bunch of health books today because I'm like, I want to know more about the body, about the veins, about the lymph nodes, the unknown parts of the body that are supposedly prehistoric. I want to know everything. I don't want to miss nothing. I want to know absolutely everything. And I don't want to stop short of even like pre-calculus and statistics. I want to know everything. I have to know everything now because it's so cool how it all works together. One plays into the other, and it's just like something that you just, the only way you could comprehend it all into the fullest of what it is you have to know everything. And so I have to know everything. I have 800 books. I think it's like 1,000. I have another 300 that I have to finish up grabbing. And then that's so many books considering they're like 4 or 5 to 1,000 pages a piece. That is well over 100,000 words. And people be lucky to write 160,000 words within 40 years. So I'm gonna be reading somebody's whole life's worth of work if they were supposedly to be writing that many books back in the day. And I'm excited for it. I've always been drawn to stuff that made no sense, so this just be the finale to it all. And I'm excited for it. Especially with what I've learned so far and how I could deliver it to some random person at any given moment. It's like, yo, this is such a blessing. I could help so many people. If some one person gives me a second of their time, I could help them. That's like one of the best things you could have in life is to be able to help one another. And I'm pretty sure in the health book it was talking about that. Like, once you learn all of this, you have to help each other. And I found one book on the front page of it, the first part of the book, it says, this book was made as a non profitable piece of work for everyone. And it was just like, see, it's not just me. It's not just me. Someone knew this stuff. Someone very, very, very smart that knew 8 languages, had 15 plus degrees, decided that they were just going to do a bunch of really great things for the earth and make it non-profit. That's so awesome. I can't imagine like the lower class being stonewalled into the life that they should be living because there's classes to life. That's empty. I can't tell you how many jobs I showed up to where it was an instant competition. It's just like, why is it like this? Why can't we all just work together and get along? And it's because the hierarchy, the structures, they're just, they're competition based structures. And let alone if you're able to now go into the union, be a scaffolder, be in the scaffold work, and you're doing the working out, and you're doing the everything, and people just think you're trying to compete with them, and it was never like that. I was just trying to be the best person I possibly could, no matter the circumstances being dealt into me. People were wondering why I was smiling when I had no job. And it's just because why does that define me? Then you get hit with those random questions like, you're okay with having no job? It's not that I'm okay with having no job. It's just the fact that I lost the job due to things out of my control. Am I going to get all caught up on it? That don't make sense. Never, never give something so much credibility over your life that it runs your emotions. And then people just keep trying to assume that I'm okay being like whatever they deemed it was, but I was still going to the gym 3 times a day, waiting for the winter to end. And then winter ends. I get another job in the same category, and then the same thing happens like a snap of a finger. And it was just like, all right. But I kept smiling. I kept being happy. I kept trying to get some work done, doing as much as possible. And I noticed everything. So I noticed the micro expressions in the morning when people would like, the second I walk in, like it would get quiet or the energy would die down. And I'd be like, okay, that's different. And it's because I didn't have a job. You truly get looked at like you're less because you don't have a job. It's just so wild to me. How, like, all right, it's whatever. And then at the end, it was total wildness. I have never really had a reason to fabricate anything. I did do some goofy works one upon a time, like when I was a kid. Like, yeah, I was a kid at one point doing kid stuff, learning, right? But I like to assume, based off the circumstances I have been dealt, the cards I have been given, like, I have done some work. And I kept trying to make people see what I was doing and to value my work. I was doing that all wrong too. Once you value yourself so much, you don't need the external. But you could be a multi-millionaire if you don't discover yourself with that $1 million. It's nothing to you. The money's not money. Like, I don't know. It was maybe just me, because when I went home, I would drop like $4,000 on everybody. I'll take my daughter out to as many places as possible. I'll make sure everyone felt loved. And then the second I lost my job, it was like a total flip of a switch. I just like, how does this happen? And it's all over. It's all said and done. But I don't hold nothing over nobody. I don't have no bad feelings. I don't have no negative reviews on no person. I look at it in such a positive way, but I can't force everyone else to see it in a positive way. So then it's just, and I've already seen it. And everyone's gonna always have their different view. Remember the little game where you pass the whisper around, and then by the time the whisper gets back to the last person in the line, everyone's like, what was the whisper? And then everyone had a different idea of the whisper. It's like that. Everyone's gonna have their own idea of what happened. And if the self-discovery doesn't happen, to go and force yourself back into a dynamic is just a mad mistake. It's not for you to judge nobody. It's not for you to say, hey, these are some terrible people. It's not for any of that. It's to learn from. It's a life lesson. It's to learn, grow, be better. But if I could be honest with any and every person, I was locked out of my conscious brain. I had a brain fog I could not explain. I was running on 5% my whole life, and the first person I tried to tell that to, they blew up. And I was like, hey, it wasn't supposed to go like that. I was just trying to tell you that there was something I couldn't understand, and now I understand it. I had like a brain fog, and it just kept blowing up. And I was like, all right, whatever. No, I can't. What, you want me to give you my brain, and then you see the brain fog? Like, I can't do that. So now I'm all the way in Texas because I pretty much just went down the line. I was like, maybe I could go chill with my sister. Maybe I could go chill with my friend. And then just, that wasn't the case. And then now here we are. And what most people would assume that I'm like off to bat or something, I'm not. Yeah, I live in a motel. Yeah, it's bug infested. Yeah, it's not much, but it's a start. And I have to get surgery on my leg. I've tried to just pretend it didn't happen, and I was trying to see if I could do squats, trying to see if it will hold up. It wasn't holding up. And then to top it off, I did a goofy at the gym, and then it popped back out. Straight back to square one. And so I got it checked out on the 13th. I got a CAT scan. And then I just got my teeth checked out after 4 years. I have not cared for myself since I've gotten out of the military. And so now I'm finally caring for myself. Finally. My teeth were all jacked up. I don't see how anyone could see it other than what it was. And I feel like where I stand shouldn't be a problem. And I don't judge nobody. I'm not allowed to judge people. I might question why certain things are done in a manner, but I'm just trying to understand. I always ask why. I don't play a poor me why, but I ask why. I have to ask why. That's always been my go-to. Why did this happen? What if it happened like this? What if this? But why? And then I get my own understanding for it. I think it was the coolest movie I've ever got to watch. And now I'm finally paying attention to what I should have been paying attention to the whole time. But there was a brain fog. It was like work, 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 monotonous, monotonous, go to sleep, lesser feeling, wake up, continue the monotony. And it got to a point where I had to ask people, like, y'all don't feel that? Why does it feel like that? No matter how good you do, it still feels empty. That doesn't make sense to me. I have to know why. So I kept asking questions. I've tried all the books. I've tried all the little motivational clips. And then there was like one last answer. Religion. I opened up the Bible, and within the first 2 months, my life changed. And I try to scream it from the rooftops. This is the way. And then I just sounded like a religious spiritual dude that went too far. And it's like, surely I just finally found the answer I've been looking for my whole life. I'm just trying to help everybody. But then people they're like, I don't need help. I'm perfectly fine. And it's like, oh, all right, my bad. So you just like, I'm gonna just focus on myself then. And then you focus on yourself, and then people think you're selfish. I've never focused on myself. I made over $400,000 and I made sure everyone felt loved. I did pour into myself too, but it was empty. It was all empty. I felt better going and buying people food than I felt spending $1 on myself. Ego deaths are awesome. I think that's probably like the best part of the experience, the ego death. 803. The book said I can't night eat no more. It says if you eat 3 hours before bed, that it causes everything in your body to just get disrupted. You'll have like stomach problems, all kinds of stuff. It was like, don't eat before bed. That's your main goal. Stay away from that. And I was like, dang, that's like my favorite time to eat because I get bored. And I just start eating out of boredom. I don't know, life is awesome. We can't get mad at ourselves for not knowing better. We can't get mad at somebody else for the way they responded, and it's everybody's first time on earth. So, speaking as far as like common knowledge, right? I think that the lesson to be learned is that the ego really keeps us stuck to the lower versions of ourselves without us even realizing. It's like sometimes when you put a VHS tape in, and you know how you used to have to rewind the VHS tapes. You put the VHS tape in, and you're about to watch a movie you thought, and then you find out it's at the end of the movie, and you're like, oh, I gotta rewind it. But if you would have just rewinded it after you watched it the first time, you wouldn't have to rewind it. Now, when you're going to watch it again, it's like that little extra step you could have done. You wouldn't have had to have been surprised by something that was in your control. But now, surprise, you have your whole guest group over or whatever, and you put the movie in, and now they're just gonna have to wait for you to unwind the movie for however long it took. I don't remember how long it took. It took a while. But it's also annoying too. So the simple things we could do is taking the extra steps into ensuring that we're prepared always. What I needed to do to prepare was fill up my own cup for once in my life. I had to. Had to. I had to just drop it like it was hot and move to Texas. All right, here didn't work, Texas. I had to. I tried every different approach to everything already. I can't try 101 times. That doesn't, I couldn't do it. I told everybody how I felt. I told everybody where I was at. I said I need this all to make more sense. Everyone treated me as if I was still 19 and I was the youngest version of myself to them. It was just like, I'm finding all these answers and I'm telling everyone the truth from the bottom of my heart, and no one values that no more. Then it just turns into neighborhood gossip. And it's just like, bro, I'm too old for this. I could bite back, but I'm just too old for this. I'm not playing another game in my life like that. And when I see it, chop, 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 chop. I'll never play it again. Everybody's gonna say I changed, I this, I that. No, I found worth in myself that I wanted everyone else to see. If they can't see it, I found it in myself. I see it. I know where I'm going. I pray for everyone. I wish them the best. Not a ounce of upsetness in my body towards anybody. I still pray for everybody. I pray that nobody walks into that dark tunnel any longer. Turn around, the light is there. You just have to see it. I can't force you to see it. I wish more than anything I could just put it on a piece of paper. This is how, but I know it will not do nothing of what I want it to. I told people the Bible is the key to life. It is poetry for the soul, and it is just talking about how this earthly place works. All of it is about how the earth works. What happened when the kings were bad? They failed as kings. What happened when they failed as kings? They got karma for their actions. What happened when somebody tried to do something bad? They got punishment. What happens when people lied? The lions was in the den, ready for them. The lions always told whoever was lying and who was ever keeping the truth. So what happens if you don't believe in all this greatness? Well, then you just get stuck in this like lower idea of life that doesn't exist unless you let it exist. How is the earth created? By God. It's too perfect not to be created by God. Then we start arguing over names of people, and it's like, bro, that is not what it teaches us. Love thy neighbor, love thyself. Treat your partner how you will want to be treated. And I always kicked it off with Corinthians. So I always kicked it off with the letters first. And in every letter, it's like, hey, this is how we got to do this, or else the kingdom will fall. We got to be kind. We got to be courteous. We got to be fair. We got to get rid of judgment. Judgment is the Lord's. If the Lord is for you, who could be against you truly? The creator of all of this, if he created all of this, he's watching always. She's watching always. Who could do something unseen? Nobody. What happened at the end? A flood happens. Or was that Genesis? It was Genesis, but then here comes a big surge of something where everyone starts to see everything for what it is. It's what's happening right now. And no matter what people would see, they like to just doubt it for some reason. It's just like, darn, dude. This is the best advice I got for anybody. And the more I read, the more I learn about Christ and how he was risen from the dead and what he did for his people. I am the dust on the bottom of your feet, he says. The only time he complained is when, God, don't forsake me, please. Or why have you forsaken me? Let alone if that's just like a very minuscule version of what it used to be. Get into that, see how great it is. I read it twice. Now go ahead, fill up a notebook worth of notes of all your favorite verses. Go back, study your verses. Then if you want it to be more full, chase after the rest. I don't think that I'll ever stop. I'm gonna be like the bearer of bad news for anybody who hit me up on like a Saturday, like, hey, you wanna go out and drink? No. Well, what are you doing? Reading my Bible, reading some books, learning. I'm always gonna be like that now. But I had been, since I got out of the military, I was like, nah, bro, I gotta do something more fulfilling than this. But then to fit in, you have to do what everyone else is doing. So I try to fit in for as long as possible. I can't fit in, not this in my crowd. I'll try it once in a while, regret it instantly, and then I'll be like, yep, this ain't my crowd. And I want to drag somebody into my world, like, you wouldn't get me. You wouldn't. I only put out 20 to 30% of like the totality of myself. Just because I know I'm too goofy. And I even buried my goofy side for a really long time because I was like, I'm gonna just fit in. I buried my goofy side, and then I bring my goofy side back out, and then now everyone's like, get out of here, dude. I'm gonna stay my goofy self. I'm enjoying it. I speak from a snap of a finger. No one likes that. I enjoy reading non-stop 24/7 when I wake up, when I go to sleep, and repeating the process. And I saw some little Buddhist thing where it was like, if if you were happy, you wouldn't have to keep trying to learn stuff. You would be happy and content as is. And block, I felt like that was the most darndest thing I had ever heard. How the creative faculties work. Surely your brain likes to learn stuff. And I can't even follow the popular creators. They all just talk about the trendy topics. They all just follow these trends and do this trendy stuff. It's just like, no, I won't talk about that. No, I won't give that an ounce of my attention. I have over 100 news stations blocked because they just keep talking about the most darndest things ever. The most mind numbing, empty. It's like a bag of chips. Like, bro, it's day 100. You're not tired of eating just chips? Oh, they're good. You get a lot of calories and then there's just no nutrition. Did you hear the no nutrition part? Yeah, but after like the 10th bag, you're built for it. And it's just like, all right. I personally can't do that. I just I think we live in such a beautiful world and a beautiful time and place where it's like y'all have to see what's happening. But you'd have to want to see what's happening. And it's just like, if we see two bad things, our brain is just instantly like hooked. And it's truly a snake biting its own tail. You know it's venom, but you're gonna put it in the body because it's toxic stuff. And you're just creating a toxic loop of toxicity. Don't do that to yourself. Stop eating the chips. Stop eating that empty content. Like, surely enjoy your life. But if enjoying your life is throwing it in a trash can, not learning nothing, it is what it is. No. You could say, life be lifing. But don't pretend like it's out of your control to stop biting your own tail. Stay away from all that lower tiered stuff. Don't value your family and your children based off of what they bring to the table, rather what you can help them understand and the reality in which they live in. No one's life story is going to be perfect. We're all humans. And like my dad, he would always try to judge me for doing what he did. You can't do that. You're making it last longer. let alone the fact that you did worse. I'm doing 70% of what you did, and you're still coming at me? Like, you can't do that. That's not emotional regulation. And then that fool just decided to cook at the end. Like, bro, no. Whatever, Dad. I have a beautiful daughter that's, she would love to. All right. Whatever. I told that fool when I came home from the military that I'll do whatever it took to fix the problems. And then it was a snap of a finger. So appreciate your family. Love them if you can. Don't be upset at them. Don't hold on to something so bad that it disrupts you. Forgiveness is the key to this all. Surely. Like, my dad could have kept coming to ask me for money over and over and over again, me knowing what was going to be done with it. I still did it. Forgiveness is everything. You can't hold stuff above people's heads. It's just going to keep crushing them. But give somebody that shoulder and give them some kind words. Give them some prayers when they're not paying attention. Shoot, if you write something big, super big. Don't show them until one day they hit you back up. And then when they hit you back up, you could be like, yeah, but let me read this thing I wrote for you. All praises to the Most High Creator, Source, and Mother Sophia, Holy Mary, Christ, Trinity. I pray that all families see how amazing the earthly experiences has been thus far, as we may see the greatness of both the lessons and the blessings that we have, and for the horror and to the honor that to me that I have been formed in the Alps, and I couldn't be more honored for all that I have learned. I pray to utilize my experience to better as many people as possible in the kindest, most straightforward way possible. I pray I can help as many and to find the value in their life, showing them how amazing they are, how much a sense of oneness matters. I pray to show everyone how the ego was made and to blind us, and how many of us get blinded by our ego, and to let go of the ego and the mind and to bring the whole earth back into harmony. I pray that the parents see all the little ones and put their focus where it matters, most in making sure that we fix things, and for all their sakes, and the sense of I evaporates and egos vanish, oneness be restored to all. I pray that a hedge of protection over all who may need it, and who needs any help goes with the help, like from one another, and to not self-create stress over wants. May everyone know that they are valuable. They are all in one, and may everyone find what they deserve. Amen. It's not in this one. Then this isn't even my friend, but somebody else's friend. And it's like, I know where you're at. I know what you're feeling. I know how it may seem easier to choose option A over option B. But here, let me do this for you because I know where you are. My dad was there. Dear Almighty, today I want to make a special prayer to our sister, Brienne. I've been told that she's been struggling and understanding how great she truly is. Being that we are all one, I understand her pain in a world that has been so truly misguided, that families turn towards the outward gratifications and satisfactions, not understanding that forever happiness is found once you truly look within and see how great you truly are. In this prayer, I would like to hedge a protection and to be placed over her and her son Stephen, especially over her son, because a child truly is the greatest gift one may be blessed with. May you wrap your loving kindness around both of them. May we guide her into the infinite light from within and give her a blanket of help and let tether to the knowing in much that we care, and that she call on you in times of need, and we get a clean break from all the afflictions. May she find her self-worth. May she learn how valuable she truly is. I pray over her, all going through a difficult time right now. May they be turned into the inwards understanding and to allow us to save as many as possible in this time, in this lifetime, but also in the next, that they love and to only grow and to be greater. From this day forward, may we all learn that we truly are one and reached out when impossible, and we are brothers and sisters to one another. May no one person be left behind. I pray with all my life force to help as many people as possible understand how great they truly are. May the vanity blind none, and her amazing son be cherished and not go without. I pray a bulwark, a hedge of protection over him, and the most caring arms to watch after him while his mom gets better. I pray that all the stars on the planet and all the multiverse, that we can collectively make this prayer happen. Thank you, everlasting infinity, and for all that you do always. May it never go unnoticed. Amen. It's not even my friend, but it's my sister. So that's how it works. I don't think it gets better than that. Being able to say kind words for people that have no one speaking greatness over them. And that I feel like parents should be doing this over their kids nightly. But if you're locked out from understanding what the Bible is made for, that you won't see what it's meant for. But it's truly, truly magical. And for me, it's been everything. After all running off the rails on a wild, never understanding nothing, and then my life gets flipped completely. I'm grateful. Wouldn't trade it for the world. I hope that I can convince as many people as possible within the time I'm allotted to do the same. Everyone deserves it. Everyone deserves their happiest versions of themselves always, and it not be defined by material. I pray a day where, like Martin Luther King said, that people won't be judged for the outside material world, but rather the context of their heart, where they come from, what they are, how they got there, the story. I feel like I've always looked at life that way. I just didn't know why I looked at life that way. And when I'd seen how other people got along, I try to fit in. What was I doing trying to fit in? That don't make no sense. So don't try and fit in. Your uniqueness is what makes you amazing. And if I didn't just get my teeth drilled out today, that I'd probably have a lot more energy in this talk. But I got my teeth drilled out today and it was painful. I jumped out the seat like 3 times. So, yeah, just be amazing. Pray for people. Pray for people who need it. Surely you know someone you're driving down the street and you see a homeless person on the corner and you don't have money to give him. Just pray for him. Watch your prayers work. Speak them into the universe. I'm hoping my prayers work for those people. If they don't, I'm gonna keep praying them. Keep praying them. Keep praying them. That level of we are a family, it's amazing. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I hope that nobody trades it for the world. I hope that everyone could see this all for what it is. And I'll pray for everybody. I always do. I even pray for the people who might be in like this state of not understanding, still trying to make a point. And I pray that they turn around and just walk back towards the light. I pray for everybody. I do not pray for any like people like to pray against. You can't do that. I pray for my enemies. I pray for my enemies because one day they could be my acquaintances. That's what it says in the Bible. Pray so that one day when they do look back, that they see you're still praying for them, that it's going to shake them to their core and that they could potentially be on par with the whole of it all. Like if I was ever a cop, bro, I'd be praying for the people I pulled over in the middle of pulling them over. And then I'd be assessing the situations and like I'd probably never write a ticket. If I could almost be totally honest, I'd be a bad cop. Because I'd just pray over them and pray that they see the better, that this life is worth living. Nothing external will be more than a temporary fix. It's all internal. It's been with you this whole time. You just have to believe it. With that being said, we're going to wrap it up. I don't think I have anything to do tomorrow, so we'll jump back on tomorrow. I'm still going to read till I go to sleep, so I'll continue to share all my informations as much as I can, as best as I can. I know that I talk about a lot of controversial stuff, but I feel like everyone deserves not only an outside view of stuff, like somebody else's view on it, but they also deserve to know that they should also look at it and give it their own go and then come out with their own conclusion of the matter of what they learned. And so I think that's the best part of it all. Learn. You could watch too, like that's okay. But also go and chase after that same like level of understanding where now you read it and bring back this communion, a collective communion of people who are able to just talk amongst one another with nothing gonna steer a conversation southbound. Oh, you have that view? I love your view. That's very interesting. I never looked at it that way. It's cool to have this different perspective of things from a different person that's been through different situations. And the level of respect that we could collectively come into is just going to be what the earth should have been since the start. But I think somewhere around the 300s BCE that a bunch of angry people got in charge or something. They just started dominating the world. But I swear it, be the key to life. Take care. I don't know how to turn this off.